just quickly introduce myself. My name is Leena Singh. I volunteer as a Khalsa school teacher for Kirtan, also do Gurbani program on the radio, do everyday Hukamnama on the radio. By profession, I'm a computer engineer. So for today, the topic we are going to dive into from Gurbani is Haumai. Leena, can you make it a little bit louder, please? You want to speak louder? Yeah, okay. I didn't have a very good throat last week. So, so we look at Haumai from the perspective of what Gurbani tells us. So when this topic first came into my mind, this is what I wrote about it, what all I can cover. The abstract which came into my mind is, let's look at the concept of Haumai in Gurbani. And we keep hearing this from all sources, that the basic need for everyone is to first familiarize oneself with one's Haumai. And we see translated as ego also.
Put it on, because I can't hear the...
You can't hear that?
It's over there.
So you want to put it on?
Well, I don't see the activity. And put it to the shirt. On the shirt.
If you're going to sit down, you can leave it on the table.
Yeah.
Otherwise.
It's better?
Yeah, because that way I can see the contact.
Okay, so the topic we're covering is Haumai today from Gurbani perspective. The abstract which came into my mind is we look at concept of Haumai. As we know, as we have heard often, the basic need is to first familiarize oneself with one's Haumai, often translated as ego, and then we need to work on getting rid of it to attain the realization. And that's what in our spiritual books in Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji, that's the purpose of human life. And Haumai comes many times in Shri Guru Granth Sahib Ji. And as it emphasizes, it says Haumai is the main blocking factor for why Guru's grace to occur and to be seen in one's life. So let's try to look into it in the light of Gurbani. We can dive a little more into it. What does Gurbani say about Haumai, and try to enlighten us with some of the Gurbani quotes there. The topics I came up with, mainly the thing, what we are going to cover is what is Haumai. It's not easy. There are so many words in Gurbani which we hear all the time, most of the time, like Haumai, Hukum, Naam, Karam, Dubida, but we never understand it. It's very difficult to understand. We hear a lot about it, we hear a lot of translations, a lot of katha, but understanding even one of them in a true sense can get you to the, that's what is written in Gurbani also, can get you to the liberation. So we'll, let's look into what is Haumai, try to get some sense, some feel of it. What are the harmful effects of Haumai? What does Gurbani say about that? And how do we eliminate Haumai? So when I look into Guru Granth Sahib Ji, and I do search on, this is based on shrigrant.org, that site. If I search for Haumai word on it and search for Haum word on it, it's like Haumai word comes for 621 times. Haum word, both of them are mostly used for the same purpose. Haum word comes for 787 times, and there are endless quotes, endless Gurbani quotes on Haumai. It's full of, everywhere you'll see, in all Banis you'll hear that word all the time. And then Mahan Kosh, irrespective of Gurbani or just the Punjabi dictionary of Haumai, the way it translates that is ahang, your ahankar, main meri da bhav. It's like ahanta, your abhiman, khudi. And it gives an example, tin antar Haumai khanda hai. We listen to that all the time in Sohila. Then there are others meanings spread across internet on Haumai. You search for it. It's some of them are ahankar, it's how, main, it's like sometimes it's it's me, मैं बड़ा हाँ, गरूर करना अपने आप पे, and all the time you're thinking about yourself. It's me who is doing things. बड़प्पन दी लालसा, वक्रापन. We will look more into वक्रापन is like I'm different from everybody else. Sometimes it's used for khudgarzi also, as a real ego also. It's like that too. How is used as like literal as man, me, or it is also used as ahankar. So Mahankosh gives it like or man, and it also sometimes is used as apranta jivatma, like to represent yourself as. So that's the word how is used as. But mostly you see it represents the ahankar and mera vadappan and meri vilakhanta bakyan, or how I'm so different than everybody else. If you look at English translation, and some in Mahan Kosh also it's hidden, they've written ego in English, ego or pride. And then Indra Mohanji came up with this nice summary of how to put this in English. So this is what he wrote: strong consciousness of I and mine, and separation from God and from others. So Haumai is the one which leads to pride, possessiveness, jealousy, and hatred. So,
Can I add some one comment?
Yes.
You think of Haumai as pride,
yeah.
but even feeling inferior to others also is a part of Haumai, feeling separate in any way. So if you're very sensitive, what will other people think of me, what will they do?
Yeah.
So even though it's there, it's the opposite of pride, but that is also Haumai, because it's the separation is the real meaning of Haumai, the sense of I.
Like inferiority complex.
Inferiority complex, very much a part of Haumai also.
Are you saying even surrendering, act of surrendering is also Haumai?
Surrendering is giving up Haumai.
No, surrendering means surrendering.
Surrendering to I.
No, surrendering to some other person, entity, surrendering, give up.
No, so it's
It's the sense of I, a strong sense of I.
Ego.
See, when a Gurmukh sees himself as a part of God, man tu jot sarup hai, and he also sees in God and everybody. Sab ghat Ram bole, sab mein jot hai soye. So there's this unity of consciousness is what the Gurmukh develops as through spiritual growth. The sense of being connected, of everything being God, and getting over the sense of I am separate, this is mine, so if you take it, I'll be mad at you. I'm jealous of you because you have something that I want to have. So all those are part of Haumai, those are separation and the sense of I, as opposed to the unity of consciousness. So that is the deeper meaning of Haumai.
Yeah, because pride is
Ahankar
actually
is
good.
actually,
Pride is actually good.
it can be good or bad. If it's pride on yourself, it's bad. If it's pride
If you are saying
pride
I'm a proud to be a
something
Sikh,
positive, yeah.
that is, so.
even that can be negative if you hate others.
Yes.
But if you take it in a positive way,
Yeah.
it can be a good thing, right?
Yeah.
because your pride is healthy.
Pride is
It can be.
Haumai is the opposite
Yeah.
of pride.
Haumai direct road hai.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Haumai naam and naal virod ne do na rahe ek thao. So naam and Haumai cannot stay together. So it is the biggest obstacle of all.
So these are the like literal written documentation of what does it mean, and then there's inferences. So like Indra Mohanji said, if I look at all those like Haumai related quotes in Gurbani, and if you want to summarize that Haumai, how would you summarize it? And everywhere else, like even in other religions, if you look at if there are English translations of other religions, you see that Bible or like Gita and all, they call it ego, but then they start describing it in detail, and then it comes to something where you distinguish yourself from the one. So the summary is based on Gurbani essence. If you try to put all of that together and other latest publishings from spiritual studies, Haumai is when you distinguish yourself from the one and only. ਜਦੋਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਆਪ ਨੂੰ ਵਾਹਿਗੁਰੂ ਨਾਲੋਂ ਵੱਖਰਾ ਸਮਝਦੇ ਹੋ, that is Haumai. So that's why even if you are feeling bad about yourself, right, it's inferior about yourself, it's a Haumai. That's why.
Oh, really? If you feel inferior about self,
Yeah, it's the Haumai which is
It's the
feeling,
sense
because
of
they're
I.
separate.
Okay, लोग की कहेंगे
Yeah.
मैं उनके बराबर
Because
नहीं
they're
है,
separate,
I'm
you're
not
feeling
equal to him,
separate.
something wrong with me. That's still
That's
an
a
ego-based
Yeah.
thing. It's still about
Yeah,
me.
yeah. So that is
Because if you see
spiritual.
God
yeah.
as a part of everything, then you don't have that feeling.
Yeah.
Man
So-
to jot sarup hai.
Yeah. So that's the way it's used. Yeah, yeah. Gurbani, that's how.
For the load, the other example which you gave.
Well, that's an explanation. Gurbani
Yeah.
doesn't get
It's
at that level,
separation.
but it's the fact of separation, opposite of duvida, is
I get it. Yeah.
It's an integration. And
Yeah.
I think there are quotes in
Coming to
Gurbani
the-
that says, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Hankar all come out of Haumai.
Haumai.
I don't remember the exact quotes, but that's the underlying cause of all of them. Even anger, hatred, jealousy, discrimination, they're all tied into I'm separate from the others, right?
You want to say something?
Haji.
My basic point is that in Gurbani, whatever thing we take up in a very comprehensive manner, and the role of synonyms is very, very important. I'll come to the Gurbani's use of Persian synonym, that is khudi. And I was amazed really whether this is used in Gurbani.
Yes.
Twice it is used in Gurbani. For example, one at page 260, where they
खुद ही मिट्टी तो कुछ नहीं है।
this
What does it mean?
my memory
Khudi,
fades.
here it is.
But,
Khudi, mera.
I'll
It's just my khud.
Right.
Khud. It's just my own existence, my
Right.
khudi. Right. It's
Just
a-
give me a minute. खुदी मिटी तो सुख भय मन तन भय अरोग नानक दृष्टि आया उस्तत करने जोग. This is at page 260. And the other entry under खुदी is खुदी मिटी चूका भुलावा गुर मन ही माहे प्रगटाया जियो. In fact, I was then, when it comes to use of khudi, I was reminded of Iqbal's two very famous sayings. One was, मिटा दे अपनी हस्ती को अगर कुछ मर्तबा चाहे कि दाना खाक में मिलकर गुलो गुलजार होता है. This was one. The second one is saying, sorry, I'm losing fluency and
खुदी को कर
No, no, खुदी को कर बुलंद.
other is खुदी को कर बुलंद इतना कि हर तकदीर से पहले खुदा बंदे से खुद पूछे बता तेरी रज़ा क्या है. Now this really depends upon how we interpret this, and secondly, the message which they convey. What I feel is that the Gurbani is really the mystical expression of the spiritual experience of the Gurus. And the Gurus are very frank, and when they talk about their varying moods, for example, कब हूँ जीवड़ा मुझको चढ़ाता है कब चाय प्याले चारे कुंडा भाले.
आती जगह थे न रहे हैं चारे कुंडा भाले.
So khudi, and there was another one word. I forgot. Khudi, and there was another one you just used in your
Right.
quotes.
Persian word?
Hanji, hanji.
In the Persian
Ha-
expression.
Started with her, I forgot.
Right.
So both of them they are used for Haumai.
Right.
So there is the first school of discuss. Then second one I'm trying to put. So if I just summarize all of that together, what is it? What's the main? If I want to put it in very simple words for us to understand, what is it trying to tell you? What is Gurbani emphasizing? What Haumai? First thing it tells is the main obstacle between one's union with Vaheguru, with one and only is one's Haumai. So it's all everywhere. So that's the very first message it's trying to give you. Then it's asking you to realize it. One should realize that there is Haumai, and then one should work on eliminating it. And then it tells you various means. These are just it doesn't directly tell you, but there are so many quotes there. Says there is a satsanga, there is naam, there is ardas. It tells you various means of eliminating that. And there's one main thing it tells is that Maya does not let you realize this fact. And that's the difficulty. And it does not let you realize this fact that there's a Haumai, and it can only be realized by Satguru's Kripa. So that's, if I try to put it all in very simple words, this is all the essence of what I get from what all those quotes, are trying to tell you in summary about Haumai. So now we'll just get into now the Gurbani examples. This slide still gets into the overall sense of different messages about Haumai from Gurbani, and then we'll start diving into detail of each one of those. So the very first one here, again, it's related to it's just Gurbani quote related to the previous slide. It says, "Polya Haumai surat visar," "O ignorant fool, O ignorant one, apni surat to from your mind, from your intellect, Haumai nu kat de, forget your Haumai from your intellect." Then what do? Haumai mar, Vichaar man, gun vich gun le sar. Just kill that Haumai nu mar, and Vichaar, and then you start thinking about God. You contemplate on God, contemplate Him in your mind, and then what do? If you don't have any Haumai, now you are not great, you are not doing anything, then what do? Gun vich gun le sar. Now you try to gather the virtues of the gun of the Vaheguru. Think about His gun, because you are part of Him. So try to have His gun, right? So that's so it's telling you, right, very straightforward. You have to get rid of Haumai. Then next it says, "How मैं विचो खोवे, दूजा मेटे एको होवे." So what happens if you are able to eradicate egotism? Very simple way it's telling you. Then you erase your duality, duja duality, or duja means anything other than your thinking about Prabhu's, your existence of Paramatma. Duja mete, then eko hove, then you become one with the God. So that's the other message we discussed in the previous slide. So then it says Haumai Maya Muhani. So this is telling about how difficult it is. It's everything is. Haumai is within the influence of Maya. Haumai Maya Muhani duje lagge jaye. So it's trapped. It's trapped with everything else other than Vaheguru. Duje laggi jaye. In the fascination of Maya, the Haumai is trapped within with the duality. Na ye mari, na mare, na ye hat vikai. Says you cannot do anything with it. You cannot kill it. It does not die by itself. You cannot give it to anybody also. Like you think you can sell it in the store or something. You cannot do that. Na ye hat vikai. So what can you do? Gur ke shabad par jaliye ta eh vichon jaye. Says by the word of Guru Shabad, Satguru's Shabad is the only way par jaliye, it can be burned, and then it will go away from within. Tan man hove ujla, naam vase man aaye. And if there is no Haumai in state, only when you are in a state when there is no Haumai, then only naam can come and dwell within yourself, right? I mean, your body and mind become pure, and the naam, the name of the God, comes to dwell within the mind. Nanak Maya ka maran shabd hai, gurmukh paya jaye. See, the Shabad is the killer of the Maya. And that's always the main message from Gurbani. The Naam, the Shabad is the one which can kill Maya, can kill Haumai, and the Gurmukh is the one who can obtain it.
Just a quick question. I'm always confused about what does Shabad mean, really? When you say Shabad the through, you can kill Maya. What is that Shabad? What does that mean?
Shabad here means the name, the Naam of Vaheguru. It's the Vaheguru Shabad. Or you can, so now you can get into depth of what does Naam mean. So it's remembering God.
Remembering God.
Remembering
So
God.
Shabad
It's
is
His existence, His presence. So whichever way you want to translate.
Thank you.
So now I think these are the quotes just to help us understand that Gurbani is always telling us that there is only Ek everywhere in all Banis, every Bani, all Panch Banis. There is so many quotes about there's Ek. There's and we see our Haumai sees as a distinction. We always see as a human by nature. There's a distinction from one. We see an Ek instead of Ek, and Gurbani keeps telling us there is only one. It's very difficult to even think about, realize that in your mind, right? So so it says, there's one quote here, Eko ek har aap, puran pur rahyo prab vyap, anik bistar ek te bhai, ek arad parachit gaye. This is the one God Himself is the one and only. He is the only one. Eko ek har aap, puran pur rahyo prab vyap. And He's Vyapat, He's pervading, He's existing everywhere. It's only Him who is there. Anik bistar ek te bhai. And then there are many expanses, many forms, many creations from that one. Ek arad parachit gaye. If you adoring the one, past sins are removed from mind. All your prachit purane ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਪਾਪ ਮਿਟ ਜਾਂਦੇ ਹੈ if you devote yourself to him. ਮਨ ਤਨ ਅੰਤਰ ਏਕ ਪ੍ਰਭ ਰਾਤਾ ਗੁਰ ਪ੍ਰਸਾਦ ਨਾਨਕ ਇਕ ਜਾਤਾ. This is by Guru's grace is that one is known. So this is just one example. Then we see this ekal mati kunjan chiti kunjar chiti pajan hai bho nana re. Says there is only one clay, but बहुत सारे पांडे kunjan chiti pajan hai बहुत nana re. Out of the same clay, the elephant, the ant, and many sorts of species are formed. So asthavar jangam keet patangam kat ram samana re. In the stationary life forms, moving bees forms, worms, moths, and within each and every heart, the God is contained. So these are just two selected quotes I put in there. Just emphasizing, we are always seeing, everywhere in the Gurbani is written, there is one, but we don't have an eye for it. We keep seeing many. And then the other main part, so that's difficult, but still we also, there's one thing which we can tell our mind is we don't see him acting. There are so many examples which keep happening in our life, but we still don't see them, we don't realize them. We think it's us who is doing. We don't see him acting. So आपी ने आप साजियो, आपी ने रचियो नाव, दुई कुदरत साजिए कर आसन दिथे चाओ. In Asarivar, he says he is the one. He himself created himself. He himself assumed his name. अपने आप को बना के, he gave his own name. Then he created the rest of the creation. दुई कुदरत साजिए कर आसन दिथो चाओ. Now he's sitting, or now he's sitting with everybody, now he's sitting within his own creation, and he's watching it with delight. He says with chow, sab tamashi, sab khel, he's watching it. So it's him who is doing it. He's always there in his creation, he created it. Then this is also from Asa Divar. Kudrat disse, kudrat suniye, kudrat pao suksar, kudrat patali akasi, kudrat sarabakar, Kudrat Ved, Quran, Kateba, Kudrat Sarab Vichaar. So mainly in this one, it says Kudrat. Kudrat is used for the power, his creation. You know, it's all under his power. Everything is happening under his power. It says we see under his power. It's by his power that we see. It's by his power that we listen. By his power there is earth, there is Akash. Everything, Kudrat Sarab Akar, everything is by his power. Even all Ved Purans which are written are by him. So there's so many quotes like this in Gurbani. They keep telling us. So and then we are asked to keep reading Gurbani. Somehow in our mind, maybe that will settle in, right? And then we can realize in some way that yes, there is one over there who has the power. It's not within our hands. So in the main one is in the last line it says. सब तेरी कुदरत तू कादर करता पाखी नाई पाक नानक हुक्मे अंदर वेखे वर्तै ताको ताक. He says everything is in your power. You are the all-powerful creator. Your name is the holiest of the holy. He says नानक हुक्मे अंदर वेखे करतै ताको ताक. O Nanak, through the command of his will, he beholds and he pervades the creation. Takho tak, he's bebisal, he's like, there's nobody like him. Varte takho tak, he pervades, he beholds the whole creation of his own, like no one else can. So yeah, there are more quotes like this from distinction. It's just to keep emphasizing this. He's the one who is doing Jab Utkar. So this is from Guru Gobind Singh Ji's Bani. Jab Utkarat kara kaltara praja tarat tab de aparal jab akar karat ho kabhu tumme milat de tar sab hu. Says Jab Utkarak, when the creator created, when he evolved himself, Utkarak kara kaltara praja tarat tab de apara. Says praja tarat, the whole praja, the whole forms, the tarti, tab de apara, he created that. He created and manifested itself in many different apar, innumerable forms. Jab akar karat hu kabhu, when he dissolves, when he wants to assemble them all together, tumme milat de tar sabhu, then again all the physical forms are going to merge back in him. So it's again, he is the doer, he is the one who is doing. एक मूरत अनेक दर्शन, कीन रूप अनेक, खेल 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 अनंत को फिरेक. Since there is only one Murat, one entity, he's appearing as many, creating innumerable forms. And after playing the world drama, when you will stop the play, all will be the same once again. So there is this Bani, we keep reading it, we read it all the time, we hear it in Gurdwara all the time. So what is it? Why we still don't understand it? Why we can't get it? Like I said, there is, even if you get one of those, so many words in the Bani, it's like a liberation if you understand even one of them. Still we have Haumai. Why? Because our own, in the Gurbani it says, our existence itself, we are born. Our existence itself is based on I am. This knowing, this is Haumai. It's me. We don't know anything else. We just exist because we think it's me, it's I am. We never at heart, even if we listen to all of things at heart, we never agree to this. Mande nahi kadi ki haan upar wala kar raha hai na. We have in us ajuni sepam. We have in us nirbhav nirvair. So we have that ajuni in us. Still we think we are just this body. We think that's all what we are. Andar kuch hai nahi. Asita hi sharir hai sada. We don't believe in it because we have Haumai. Okay, we have in us nirbhav and nirvair. We live our whole life in fear. Kisda dar hai gai? वो काल पुरख ने बनाया, he created, he's going to take care of you. Everywhere in the Gurbani, किसका डर है? Still that fear is because of Haumai. We are creation of creator. Creator ने सानू बनाया है. We still think असी कर रहे हैं सब कुछ. We know we created us. We know everything else is created by creator. Still we think we are the ones. So that's Haumai, right? So then there is this one. Why it is Thanpir ka ik hi sangwasa, which Haumai pi takrari. This is because there is this hard wall, curtain, big curtain. Thanpir, this is the soul bride and the husband, the Jeevatma and the Paramatma. Ikko hi thaan te hege hain. Kyun nahi dikh sakde? There is a Haumai pi takrari. Only because of Haumai you cannot see it. There is a ego. There is a wall of egotism which has come between them. Then this is very good one. Narpat ek singhasan soya supne bhya. It says this is our condition. What are we? What is our existence right now? It's like a narpat ek singhasan soya supne bhya bikhari achat raj bichrat dukh paya sogat bhai hamari. This is like a king. He goes into the sleep and he thinks he's a bikhari. This is our janam, our birth is like a king. This is a human birth. We have God, we have Creator inside us, but we are like that narpat, that singhasan, jera soya hoya hai, jera raja soya hoya hai, apne unhu bikhari samajhta. We don't have a value for this because of the Haumai. Acha raj bichrat dukh paya, segat bai hamari. Every kai jane dukh hai. Why? Who is saying dukh hai? It's the Haumai which is saying dukh hai, right? His kingdom is intact, but separated from it, he suffers in sorrow. Such is our condition, right? So then it says what happens, what do you do, is what should be your state of your mind, right? Like the Bhagats, what do they think? How do they get rid of their Haumai? What is their state of mind? What do they think? It says this is what they think. They say jab hum hoti tab tu nahi, ab tu hi mein nahi. For us it's difficult to think what is that state when there's no Haumai. Right, so there's an example here. What does the Bhagat Ravidas ji think? Says, जब हम होते तब तू नाही, अब तू ही में नाही, अनल अगम जैसे लहर में ओदत जल केवल जग माही. Right, जब he says when the ego is there, when Haumai is there, then I don't see you. Right, and when there's no Haumai, then I'm not there. Then there's only you. And the next one is Anal Agam Jaise Leher Me Odat. So when the wind comes, there is leher which comes, right? The waves will come on the sea, right? And the wind may rise up huge waves in the vast ocean, but they are just water in water. This is used manywhere in many spiritual books. This example is used in a lot of songs now also. So we think our jivan is we think our life is the waves. We forget that we are the water. It's the water. The waves are rising on the water, right? It's not the waves which is our existence. It's the wind which is blowing, which is rising them up and down. But we are the ocean. We are the water. We are the part of the water. So that's the Haumai, which doesn't let that. That's what the Haumai thinks, right? Sarbe ek aneke swami, sab kat phog vai soi, keh ravidas haath pe nere, saje hoye soi. Says there's, and he then Bhagats understand, that's what he is trying to put there. Maybe our mind will understand too. It says that one God is pervading in the many forms and he enjoys himself in all hearts. Ravidas is saying here is the God, is right there in front, in nearer than your hands and feet, and whatever will be will happen, right? Saji hoye so hoye. If that's the state you are in, then everything else happens in Sahaj. Then because God is in Sahaj, you are in Sahaj, everything is happening in Sahaj. So the next one, efforts to rid Haumai. What shall we do? What human beings like us, what can we do? So Gurbani has a lot there telling us, says first accept it. First understand that there is a Haumai. Most of us don't understand. We never understand what is Haumai. What is in us which Gurbani is telling us is a Haumai. Says, मैं नहीं, how do you understand me? He says, can you get in a state where it says, मैं नहीं प्रभ सब किछ तेरा, ईघै निर्गुण ऊघै सरगुण, केल करत विच स्वामी मेरा. Can you understand this? I am nothing, God. Everything is yours. In this world, you are absolute formless God. ईघै Nirgun Unke Sargun, he says Nirgun Sargun, this Tingun of Maya, he says the whole world is created because of Tingun of Maya. The form and the formless is all him. And then it's the God who is playing all these games. He's doing it. Why should I worry about it? Why should my Haumai come in? I should just flow with him, right? So Loga Paramna Pulo Pai, Khalak 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 Me Khalak, Pur Usrap Thai. That's just old people or siblings of destiny. Do not wander deluded by the doubt. There's a creation in the creator and the creator in this creation. There's an example of Sikhs when they approach Guru Nanak Dev Ji. They asked, Kit kit bid jag upjay, purkha kit kit dukh vinas jaye. This is how, in what ways was the world formed? How can we eradicate the dukh? So that's the answer which is on the Sikh Ghosh. It is Haumai which jag upjay. So the whole world came into existence because of Haumai. It says Haumai which jag upjay purkha naam visriye dukh bhai. In egotism, the world was formed, O man, forgetting the naam, it suffers and dies. Gurmukh hove, so gyan tat vichare, Haumai shabad jalai, tanman nirmal bani, sachya rahe samai. So when Sikhs approached Guru Nanak Dev Ji, they asked, why are all their why even this jug, the whole world is formed? His answer is because of Haumai. Right? And if you become Gurmukh and you contemplate the sense of the Shabad, the Naam, then you can burn away. Then you can have glimpse of that Haumai. At least you can burn, and you can burn away that egoism. So it says there is a Haumai, but it's very difficult. It's not in your hands to do anything with it. It's like I said, the life's basis. Gurbani says that formation is based on Haumai, and if you just understand what it is and accept it, you are on the path. ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੁੱਝ ਲਿਆ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਰਮਾਤਮਾ ਦਾ ਦਰ ਬੁੱਝ ਲਿਆ ਹੈ, ਤੁਸੀਂ just Haumai ਬੁੱਝ ਲਈ ਹੈ. This is the quote from here. Haum which aya, haum which gaya, haum which jamya, haum which moa. Then he tells everything about what you. The whole thing happens in Haum, and in the end it says Haumai bujhe taan dar suche. So ਜੇ ਤੁਸੀਂ Haumai ਬੁੱਝ ਲਈ ਨਾ, then you know the God's dar. God, the gate of the God is known. The whole Paramatma is known to you. It says, Haum which aya, haum which gaya, haum which jamya, haum which moa. It says, because this woman is born in Haumai, it goes in Haumai, it does everything in Haumai. Haum which ditta, haum which laya, haum which khatya, haum which gaya. Everything we do, it's us we are doing. It's not, we never say it's Bible who is doing. Right? I mean, even if we say by inner self, we don't realize that, right? In ego they give and in ego they take, in ego they earn and in ego they lose. How which char kuriyar, how which pap hun vichar, whatever truthful, false, all we do, it's in how. We do all that good pap and pun also is in how. It's not just, this is one example. It says, is like inferiority or Haumai? Yeah, this is how which is sin we, pun we, how which karne hai, virtues we in Haumai which है, the sin भी हो which है. When you are doing all those bad deeds, this is because of your Haumai you are doing bad deeds, right? Home which narak swarak avatar, home which vasai, home which rovai. So if you read all about Haumai, the examples, you get a very different picture of Haumai than the ego or the pride. Then all the negative part also comes in there, right? So all the negative things you do about yourself is because of the Haumai. So home which narak, all the heaven and hell. So there's like in some of the spiritual studies, like there's an emphasis of going to heaven and hell. There's no such thing in Gurbani, right? It's Sahaj. So it says that all that heaven and hell is also because of Haumai. That happens in Haumai. And home which hasse, home which rovai, home which parye, home which tovai, home which jati, jinsi hovai, all the social status, class, everything is home. Even ignorant and siana, even murak, you are murak because of home. That's amazing. It says home which murak, you are even murak because of home. Mokh mukat ki sar na jana. Because of how you don't know anything about salvation and liberation, it doesn't let you. In ego, how which maya, how which chaya, how may karkar jant upaya. It says in ego they love maya, and in ego they are kept in darkness. And now the main thing is saying is how may karkar jant upaya. This whole world is getting created because of the Haumai. The mortal beings are being created. They are living in ego, and mortal beings are being created. Haumai bujhe tandar sujhe. One, he understands this Haumai, then they understand the God, they understand Paramatma. So then it says there are so many traps. You cannot, you keep doing all deeds and Haumai, and you keep getting trapped more and more into it. It says Hauma karam kamane tete bandh galane. The more deeds you do in egoism, the more chains go around your neck. अपने गले विच होर बंधन बंधे रहंदे हैं, होर हौमे इकट्ठी हुंदी रहंदी है. मेरी मेरी तारी ओहा पैर लोहारी. The more you say it's mine, self-conceit, self-interest, जिवें जिन्नी मेरी है, it's just like placing chains around your ankles. ओहा पैर अपनी पैरां ते आप chains लोहारी पाई हैं तुसीं. And then he says, मेरा तेरा जानता तभी ते बंधिया होया trap, bondage होया इनू, क्योंकि because of, it says मेरा है या तेरा है, that's all, that's why you're you are in a bond, बंद क्लासी नहीं हुंदी, बंधिया रहंदा है, क्योंकि ये कहंदा मेरा है या तेरा है. गुर काटी अज्ञानता तब छुटके फंदा. When Guru dispels, it's always in Gurbani, that's all others, mostly the best part of Gurbani is it gives it to the Guru. It's Satguru's Kirpa. Gur kati agyanta tab chutke fanda. When Satguru dispels my ignorance, then the news of death was cut away. There's a very, very deep understanding in this. If you have a Haumai, if you think it's me who kati my agyanta, you cannot achieve that. So you have to leave it on the Satguru. It has to be Satguru who is doing your cutting your noose of death. Otherwise, there's no way. There's a big conflict in there. You cannot cut your noose of death. So.
Can I ask you a question? Because I think that's a difficult concept when you're thinking about your daily life. Because I hear a lot of people say, it's Vahiguru's Kirpa, when something positive happens, as if there's kind of like a constant judging of your qualities. But if what you really get from Vahiguru is the Gyan, then it's an internal process. So it's kind of an internal process to overcome the Haumai, rather than kind of the judging process. I'm trying to understand kind of that deeper message there.
So it's never saying you don't have to do that internal process. You have to do always the internal process. But the conflict there is the moment you think you have to work on it. You always have to work on going through that process of internalizing yourself, right, and staying on the path. But at that highest level, at that stage, if that moment, if you start thinking that it's me who is the one who is doing all of this, it has to be by Guru, it has to be Satguru's. It has to be by grace of the Guru. The moment you start thinking it's by me, then the Haumai comes in. That's the Haumai factor which comes in.
So I guess maybe it's like you could do the same action.
Yeah.
One with one intention is to show off or something, you know, your pride or something like that.
Yeah.
But it could be the same action, like if you're doing seva or something, you could do it because you want to be.
No, you do the same action, but you have a faith in yourself. You have surrendered yourself to Sadhguru and you say, Sadhguru is making me do that action. Can you do that? That's what it's saying. Right? You are not doing the action. You are just being in the action. Can you be that state? I mean, of course you reach that state. There are people who talk like that, right? But that's what this is trying to say. Right? Yes, please.
So, this is beautiful, Leena. You know what I see as the problem here in our own life is the contradiction between what our culture demands and what our spiritual path entails. We're almost required to toot our own horn in the corporate world, to talk about how good we are, to not be modest, right? Especially when we're looking for a job or we want to raise or we want to move up the corporate ladder. It's all about, look, this is what I've done and this is. So you have to be confident, you have to be aggressive, you have to be cutthroat, right? The culture almost encourages that. Not almost, but totally encourages that. And the challenge for us is to not buy into that, to really retain our inner core and nurture it with modesty, attributing all our successes to grace, attributing all our failures also to the fact that there is learning in it and not getting discouraged. And I think that's where we have to separate, it's all about me, to this is how it's meant to be. This is all good. This is part of the design. This is part of my growth. I think in real life, those are the tensions that we have to battle with, right?
Right.
Can I add something to that?
Yes.
Yeah, so I think you're certainly right. When you are an adult, competing in life, you have to have all those challenges. But I also feel like right from the moment you're born, our whole society pushes.
You're fed into,
Yeah,
you're
the
fed
education
that.
system, the way the sports are taught to kids, it's almost like, I would think that when you're born, you don't have ego in it. But a child just born probably doesn't have ego. But by the time you go through society and learn and go through the education system, you're taught to have ego, right?
Absolutely, everything feeds into it. Everything, school, awards, everything, competitiveness, cutthroatness, moving ahead. And you forget somehow that it's about the effort. It's about the journey. The reward is in the doing. There is a great joy in publishing, right? I love it when the books are published. But a bigger joy is in writing them, in experiencing, what you're going through. So I think there is a dichotomy here, and just need to be aware of that. This is what the world demands. This is, what is happening in the corporate world, in my at my work, even in my relationships. There's all this competitiveness. But in reality, I have to separate myself from that because, there is someone else, as you said, planning all this, creating all this. And the Pauri that we're going to do today, number 33, Viji, about Akhanjor, not 32, is all about this too. That there is just one power. I just wanted us to be aware of that. But thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment.
Thank you.
Yeah, just a quick comment. I think there is another aspect of this getting rid of ego. There are a number of steps which are given in Gurbani, and I think we are talking about that. Somebody who goes through that, there is a risk that now that person can start feeling proud of the fact that he has no ego.
Right. That's
Now,
the biggest ego.
That is
You
even
need the purpose. Yeah.
that is even more dangerous. That is even more dangerous. You might have heard this in English. There is a line which says, "But for a little bit of humility, I would be perfect."
Yeah.
Yes, may I say something, please?
Hanji.
Right.
Excellent.
So why?
Taking from Jaspal and Jaswiji, I want to bring totally different perspective on Haumai. And what I call it, is there any need for Haumai? You talked about why of Haumai, but I'm emphasizing need for Haumai.
Right.
And the Shabad which when you quoted, I read somewhere that the Divine Lord created himself first, second creation, third Manmukh, and last was the Gurmukh. So I'm really coming to the theory, Sikh theory of spiritual evolution. And for that, Haumai is absolutely essential because they say the word came into being by individuation. Evidently for growth of life, creation of an individual self, Haumai, that is I-ness or ego, in every being was essential. And then there are number of quotes, for example, coming to evolution, Kai janam hum keet batanga, Kai janam, and then so on and so forth. One can quote any number of shabads which really lead to the Sikh theory of spiritual evolution. That's the point I really wanted to emphasize. And if I may be permitted, another point which I'm keen to emphasize is that there is, whenever a theme is discussed in Gurbani, the imbrications, that means sort of overlapping like tiles, interconnection, interdependence with other themes. For example, in this case, to consider Haumai in isolation will be not giving us a comprehensive view of what Gurbani says. We have to sort of, along with it, see how Haumai confronts Maya, how Haumai confronts Hukam, how Haumai confronts Surat, and so on and so forth. This is what my submission.
I think the very first quote I put there was Sadhguruji. He says, Haumai, Nuki karne. What do you do if you get rid of Haumai? He says, get yourself the gun of Paramatma. Paramatma de gun liao. It's not like you can, but think of everybody together, think of one. You try to have those guns. What do you do all the time with your mind if you don't have Haumai? There was a very first quote there, which is like what you're trying to say.
I said all this, in the context of line Gurbani, Haumai dir drog hai, daru bhi ismail.
Yes, right.
And
So
what
do
is
you,
this daru? In fact, what is the daru?
What is this daru?
Yeah, what is this daru?
daru is
The
because
next
you
line
exist.
says,
Spiritual evolution.
if you see the next line, Haumai tira roga daru bhi ismail.
कृपा करिए आप ठाकुर का शब्द
Because it takes the effort to do that. You have to have
Right.
that.
So that's right.
Question is there. So in other words, Uncle, what you're saying is there is a healthy ego without
Yeah.
which there is no existence.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. We exist because of Haumai.
Right.
But then the Gurbani tells us what to do with that existence. If you can also realize why you exist. Right? You have to realize why you exist.
Simple answer. Part of the thing is to go past the I and mind, to transcend that into D and time.
Right. So one more.
So it's not that you're getting rid of the ego, but you're subsuming it into thinking it's everything is you, God, everything is yours.
Right.
And you're subsuming it in that, but you still have your individual effort. And to get back to a little bit to what Eileen was saying, on the spiritual path, we have to make an effort, right? We have to do a part, we have to do Simran, we have to do all that, we have to overcome our limitations. But as long as we think we are doing it, there's the risk that we are strengthening our ego in the process. If you think that I did this, that's why the Guru says to do it, to recognize it's all as a gift of Vaheguru, just so you can avoid strengthening your own ego. If you think I did it, you're in trouble. If you think it's your grace, then you avoid that strengthening of the ego.
Right.
मक्खन काट लो तो 400 रुपए.
So one more thing I just wanted to comment on it. We keep saying that the spiritual part is so difficult. We cannot. We cannot do this. We cannot do that. But if we look at, for us, we have a big history of our gurus. what they used to live the best life. Their world was more complex than the corporate world. किन्ने उन्होंने war कितने सीगे. I mean, they used to live with style. पूरे उन्होंने कवितावां, they used to have a style. They used to have the best clothing in that time. उन्होंने कभी नहीं किया. I mean, they used to live with pride. So that has nothing to do with Haumai. You do whatever you have to do. Do it with pride. Follow the rules.
And yet,
Right? And follow the corporate world. You have to do whatever, but do it with the faith, right?
And they were very humble at the same time.
Yeah.
You saw a lot of humility underlying everything.
That's the best one.
Okay, so but there's this one. Okay, 15 minutes, right? So this is a nice. I like this Shabad. It says it's trying to tell you to really see Haumai. You know, it says He Janam Maran Moolan Ankaram Papatma. It just tells Ankaram, you are the root of birth and death and cycle of reincarnation. You are the source of every sin. It's just directly telling Haumai, oh Ahankar, you are the one. He Janam Maran Moolan, you are the mool, you are the root. Mitra Tajan Satra Dhiran Anik Maya Bistirna hai. Right? So it's spread. You've spread a countless Maya. You forsake friends and you hold tight to enemies. Then Avant Javant Thakant Jia Dukh Sukh Bahu Pogan hai. It's telling you the whole life in front of you. So you cause the living beings to come and go until they're exhausted. It's all telling Haumai. It's just directly says you led them to experience pain and pleasure. Pram Pyan Udyan Ramnan Maha Bikat Asad Rogan hai. Says all these diseases and horrible diseases, incurable diseases because of you, Haumai. Then what is this? Badyam Par Brahm Parmeswar Arad Nanak Har 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 Hare. He says who is your physician, who is your bad, is the supreme God. Is the transcendent God. Nanak worships and adores. That's why Nanak worships and adores the Lord, because everything else is causing all of this disaster in the life. So so what do you do? So let's see, once you start seeing your Haumai, what is he telling? What is Gurbani telling you? You see it, what do you do? Mare hisve jan Haumai bikhya jin har prab milan na ditya. Mare his, you see it, you eradicate it, kill it right there. Mare hisve jan Haumai bikhya jin har prab milan na ditya. Because it's the one which is holding you back from meeting the God. You can realize the God, but it's the Haumai. Isnu kisi tarah maar de. De kanchan ve vanya in Haumai maar vigutya. Even your body, it has ruined your body. Not only so it's telling you the effect on your own form itself. Moh maya ve sab kalkha in manmukh mood sajutiya. Janana gurmukh ubre gur shabdi Haumai chutiya. This is Guru de Shabad Nal. He Haumai, you can be released from Haumai. Then what? जब इन अपनी तारी तब इसको है मुश्किल पारी. जब इन करनी हार पछाता तब इंस्ते नाही किछ ताता. जदों इन्हें पछान लिया, जदों तक as long as he was clinging to my own, it's all mine, he was in deep trouble. The moment he has understood he has recognized it, there's no more torment. Right? Tab iste nahi kishtata. There's no more dukh, there's no more torment to him. Haumai maar sada sukh paya, maya moh chukavne. So what happens? You see Haumai in yourself, then you can see you become sukhi, you get the peace, and your emotional attachment to maya is dispelled. And then there are all these other quotes there about elimination of ego, which I try to put it in 3 different forms. It's like you can eliminate ego. How do you do it? It's telling everywhere it's not doable. Haumai, I mean, for a normal being, it's just way it is. You're born because of Haumai, and there's Maya all over you trying to trap you, and it's not going to get you to realize this, that you have Haumai. So what do? That's why Satguru is, right? So he tells you there's Satsangat, there's Naam, there's Ardas, right? So why Satsangat? Because in Satsangat there is a presence of one. You can realize there's one, right? In the Satsangat कैसी जानिए जिथे एको नाम वखानिए एको नाम हुक्म है नानक सतगुरु दिया बुझाए जियो. Says, what is the society of saints? What is it called? What is satsangat? Satsangat is the one where everybody is thinking about one God. They come there, even if somebody comes in the Gurdwara, even in these days, they come with a different state of mind. That means they believe. At least you are with a set of people who believe that they have to come to Gurdwara. They have faith in Gurdwara. Right? They have faith in Sadhguru. So you are with that state of mind, surrounded with that. There's a presence there. The one name in God's there's the one name is the God's command. O Nanak, the true Guru has given me this understanding. So what happens? Mil Sant Sabha Man Manjiya, your mind is cleansed, because it's rare. It's rare these days. It's rare to find a get together where people are not thinking about, their mind is not thinking about the things you don't want to get involved. You can only risk that, you can only think of that in a congregation, in somewhere where somebody has come to bow their head, right? In a congregation, in Satsangat. Mil Sant Sabha Man Manjiye Pai, Harke Naam Nivas, Mite Andhera Agyanata Pai, Kamal Hove Pargas. Even if there is one person who is like that, who really has faith, maybe your mind will get into it. Unknowingly, you will get a feel of it. The darkness of ignorance, you realize that the darkness of ignorance shall be dispelled, O sibling of destiny, and the lotus of your heart shall blossom forth in Satsangat. His Tantan Satsangat Jitharas Paya Niljan Nanak Naam Pargas. Blessed is the true congregation where the God's essence is obtained. And it's in the Satsangat where you are saved. There's like I was saying, everywhere else you have those calm, krodh, lo, moho. It will always be there. Is there a chance in Satsangat? Oye dusht vas hote. In only Satsangat, this last line says, Sat Sangat oye dusht vas hote. It is sare dusht hai, sare villains hai, which is kind of polluting your mind. They are not in Satsangat. Our mothers and fathers, they cannot save us from them. Jinna vi pyar hoye, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਮਨ ਵਿੱਚ mind ਵਿੱਚ ਪਿਆਰ ਹੈ, ਉਨਤੇ ਰਾਖੇ ਬਾਪ ਨਾ ਮਾਏ. But they cannot get you that feeling. They cannot make you realize that for a moment. ਉਨਤੇ ਰਾਖੇ ਮੀਤ ਨਾ ਪਾਈ. ਜਿੰਨੇ ਮਰਜੀ friends ਹੋਣ, ਜਿੰਨਾ ਮਰਜੀ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਮੋਹ ਹੋਏ, ਪਿਆਰ ਹੋਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨਾਲ, faith ਹੋਏ, ਦਰਬ ਸਿਆਣਪ ਨਾ ਹੋਏ ਰਹਤੇ, ਜਿੰਨੀ ਮਰਜੀ ਸਿਆਣੀਆਂ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਬੈਠ ਕੇ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਕਹਿੰਦੇ ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ ਓਏ ਦੁਸ਼ਟ ਵਸ ਹੋਤੇ. Only in the ਸਾਧ ਸੰਗਤ, those minions, those pollutions, they get away. You get a glimpse of, your mind can get a glimpse of that.
We're running out of time.
Yes, so there is only one more slide. I think there is and then the next one is on the Naam. So, and says, there are quotes which says, Haumai Maya Muni Duja Lagge Jaye, Nai Mari Na Maraye, Nahi Hat Vikaye, Gur Ke Shabad Par Jaliye. So that's the main thing. It says, by Guru's Shabad, it can be burnt away. So try to put your mind into Gur Shabad. Ahmud Bhav Saghan Maya, Mahandhira Grog, Har Naam Aukhad Gur Naam Adine, Karan Karan Jog. It says, Guru has given me the name. And Maya, that is the most serious chronic disease. That's my Ahambud, that's my Aham, which is in a great love for Maya. But Guru has given me this name, which is curing me now. So there's some more quotes here on Maya. Prabh ki ot gahi to chuto, sad prasad har 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 gaye, bikhe vyad tab huto. Says when you go to somebody else's support, to the one and only, to Vahiguru's support, when you ask for his support and protection, and then you get emancipated. Then you are, at least there is a time when you're asking for that you don't have Haumai in there. You are not believing in your own self. You are believing in the God. You are believing in the Sadguru. Then what if you are not? If you are not believing in yourself, you are not doing anything, then what is the state of mind you should be in? It says, Santo Ram Naam Nistariye, Uthat Bethat Har Har Tyaye, Andin Shukrit Kariye. It says, first of all, realize, understand that he is the one who is doing everything, and Shukr Karo, whatever he has given, can you spend your whole life in Shukr and do the good deeds? So while standing Andin, Uthat Bethat Har Har Tyaye, while standing up and sitting down, meditate on God's name night and day and do good deeds. Do it in the Paramatma's Shukr. And then that's the other state where you can, where you don't have Haumai, is when you are, by heart you are doing ardas. That means you have a faith, you want to do ardas. It's not you who is doing things. You want, it says, मैं ताण दीवार तू है मेरे स्वामी, मैं तुझ आगे अरदास, मैं होर थाओ नाही जिस पे करो बेनंती, मेरा दुख सुख तुझी पास. So this is what we say in Ardas. Gurbani is that you keep telling your inner self, you keep saying it sunde raho, maybe inside somewhere at the core, you also realize that yes, that's true. But this is the way to approach that. नानक की अरदास है सच नाम सुहेला, आप गया सोझी पई गुर सभी मेला. मेरे सतगुरा मैं तुझ बिन अवर न कोय, हम मूरख मुगत शरणागति कर कृपा मेले हर सोए. Oh my, so just to ask your Sadguru that there is nobody else without you. Can you do that ardas every day? At least tell your mind. In other, I see there's one, some of the famous writings about Bible, they have this courses in something, they tell you that every day you do this, and they're always telling you that keep telling yourself that only there's one God. You have to keep telling yourself every day and believe in it, and then it happens. So I believe somehow our nickname is kind of similar concept. So then, this is the last slide. It says, what is it? You learn to give yourself your apa, your Haumai, your like that you are existing. You say you learn to give it out to Vaheguru and leave it to him. Like but the best one, there's so many nice quotes about Bhagats there, which tells you their state of how they used to do these. What is their state of mind? What do they think? How do they live? Right? So like Bhagat Namdev, this is a very nice one, nice Shabad. I won't read all of it. It's like when he's doing ardas to the Vaheguru, he's saying, I cannot do anything now. These Pandyas, these Pandits are saying me that I am wrong, and I think it's coming upon you. It's dishonor to you. So you do something about it. I cannot do anything now, because I'm just doing right, and I know I have faith on you. So then they say in the end, he says, what does then? Fair diya dehura name ko Pandyan ko pichravla. Says pichwarla. Sorry. He says when they heard that ardas from Namdev, so he was supposed to be. He was in Mandir. The Pandyas were telling him that you cannot come here and all, and they were telling him bad words and all. So he turned to God. It says the God turned the temple around to face Namdev, and he turned the temples back towards Brahmins. So it's written in Gurbani. So I think that's what I have. Again, that same summary slide. These are the kind of things I try to emphasize on from the Gurbani quotes. Any questions, anything else?
Very brilliant exposition. Thank you so much.
Very well. We take a